How you doing, guys, and welcome to another Dark Souls 2 video where I'll be offering my tips and tricks on all the bosses in this game. Now, I know that it's been a while since my last Dark Souls 2 video, but I figured I did start this series, so I better make sure that I finish it. So, the next boss that I took on was the Afflicted Graverobber and his two friends who hang around with him. Now, this fight can be easy, but also can be incredibly hard, depending on how you look at it. The first thing you'll notice is that the three guys aren't really a boss in a traditional sense. They're not like a unique monster or anything, they're just three guys. And chances are, while you've been playing Dark Souls 2 or any Dark Souls game, you've been invaded by either an NPC or another player around the world. And in that respect, this is no different. They're just three guys with normal attacks. Okay, so the three guys in question is you have one guy with dual samurai swords, and this guy is very quick but doesn't really hit that hard, and luckily he doesn't really have much health. Then you have the bigger guy with the huge great shield and a sort of mace or club or whatever it is. Now this guy hits very hard, but he is a lot slower, and he does have the most health out of the three enemies. And last but not least, you've got the guy with the giant great bow. And this guy is incredibly annoying because he can take pot shots at you from halfway across the arena. He's deadly accurate, and the most annoying thing is when you get too close to him, he will actually run away. Now the good news is this guy actually has the least amount of health out of all of them. And as I've already said, this guy is incredibly annoying. It makes fighting the other two while he's around taking his deadly accurate shots at you really hard. Because of that, my strongest piece of advice would be to take out the guy with the bow first. And I know it can be incredibly annoying. I found the best way to do it is to try and run my way around the side of the arena, because luckily it is a very large arena. Try and lure the other two away, and then swing around and take as many shots at the guy with a bow as you can, and eventually, after quite a while, you will eventually wear him down. Now, this fight itself isn't really hard, but it is very time consuming. But I genuinely think that this is the safest way to do it. Take the guy out with the bow first, and you should have a much easier time. Okay, so now that the guy with the bow is taken care of, now we can turn our attention to these two. Now remember what I said, the guy with the two samurai swords, he has the least amount of health. So it's really up to you whichever one you tend to go through first. Now, this stage of the fight technically can be done in multiple ways. For example, if you're good at parrying, then the good news is both of these enemies can both be parried. I found that the bigger guy with the huge great shield was much easier to parry. Because his attacks are a lot slower, you can see them coming a mile off, and it gives you plenty of time to react with the parrying weapon. However, if you're not that good at parrying, then it doesn't matter. It just means that this fight could take longer. You do have a couple of options. You could either bait them out by backing away until they both follow you and then getting a few hits in before quickly running away, or you could do the same method that you did to take out the guy with a great bow. You could run round and round in circles and try and bait one at a time, and then take as many shots in as you can before the other guy can catch up. It's completely your choice. Okay, so now that his two friends are out of the way with, now it's just the Graverobber himself. Now, the thing about this guy's two samurai swords is they do have a bleeding effect on you. So if he hits you too many times in a row, your bleeding meter will go up, and if it goes up to the top, that will cause massive damage to you. So you do want to keep an eye out on that. Other than that, there isn't really much advice I can give to this guy. Anyone who's faced an online invader or an NPC will know that it's pretty much just a straight fight. There isn't really any tactics to it. Because I'm such an idiot, I kept trying to parry this guy, which is hard because his attacks are pretty fast. If I hadn't have tried to parry him and just fought him normally, then this fight would have been over in no time. But because I'm such an idiot, I ended up dragging it out much longer than it needed to be. And there you have it, that's another boss taken care of. I wouldn't go as far to say that this boss is difficult, but it does require a lot of patience. If you take your time with it, then you shouldn't really have any problems with this boss. But if you try and go in all sword swinging against 3 opponents, chances are you're not gonna make it. So anyway, the next boss that I moved on to was... Do you remember that guy that I fought called the Dragonrider? You know, that fucking liar who doesn't even have a dragon to ride on? Well, this time, we're taking on not 1, but 2 barefaced fucking liars. That's right, 2 different Dragonriders. One of them will stay up top as soon as the fight starts, and he will constantly keep firing shots at you with his bow and arrow. The second one is pretty much the exact same fight as the first time around. Now, unfortunately, you can't get to the second guy that's firing arrows with you, but eventually, after enough time has passed, or you deal enough damage to this first guy, eventually the second guy will jump down. Now, the good news is, the second Dragon Rider, which is a lighter colour, the second Dragon Rider is sort of like a light bluish or whitish colour, whereas the first Dragon Rider is a red one. The second one has much less health. However, at this stage before he jumps down, you should have dealt a decent amount of damage to the first one, so I would recommend taking him out first. Other than that, there isn't really anything else I can say. I mean, after all, you've already beaten this boss. You must have done, otherwise you wouldn't have reached this point in the game. It's always seemed really stupid to me that they would throw in the same boss multiple times. But anyway, not to worry, because after you've taken out the first one, the second one should go down in no time based on how little health he has. And there you have it. That's 2 more barefaced fucking liars that have been taken care of, and now we can move on to the next boss, who does provide a lot more of a challenge. Okay, so the next boss I took on was the Looking Glass Knight. Now the thing about this boss is it starts off incredibly simple and incredibly easy. Unfortunately though, it gets a huge difficulty spike at roughly the middle stage of the fight. And another thing that's unfortunate is that your difficulty on this boss fight is completely out of your hands. Don't worry, I'll explain more later on. The boss itself is pretty much like any standard knight. He has a huge shield and swiping attacks which are very easily rolled through. The biggest damage dealing he has is when he holds his lightning sword up in the air, but there's a good few seconds so you always know it's coming. And you know what? It's been a while, so you know what? Let's flip that epic switch. And here we go. This is where the difficulty spike comes in. Now when you see him lower his shield and hold it like there for a few seconds, roughly after you've done roughly half his damage, he will summon another player into the boss fight with him. And obviously, depending on what player he summons will determine whether you have an easier time or a harder time. For example, if you're very lucky and he summons a player that's really shit, you can take him out in no time. Unfortunately though, if he summons a Dark Souls legend, this guy will fucking own you in seconds. It's completely random and you have no say in the matter. Luckily though, if you're extra lucky and there doesn't happen to be any other players online at the time, then he will summon a random NPC, but again it's completely random, so whether you have an easier time or a harder time fighting him, it's completely out of your hands. Now when he does summon this guy, I would recommend focusing your attention on him and taking him out as quick as possible, and then you can get back to the actual night itself. Move wise, he doesn't really have anything new, but I did notice that during his second stage, he does tend to do a lot more lightning based attacks, but you can actually turn this to your advantage. As I've already said, when he's doing his lightning based attacks, he holds his sword up in the air for about a second or two, so you always know it's coming. It gives you plenty of time to get behind him, wait for him to slam his sword down and get some damn good hits in before he can even do anything. Follow these tricks and you should take this boss down in no time. And there you have it, that's 3 more bosses dealt with. I know it wasn't the most varied bunch, but hey, they've all got to be done. Anyway, that's another video, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.